What I want to talk about this morning was initiated by somebody who put on Facebook a quote from a very famous Zen teacher called Kodo Sawaki. And he made lots of quotes during his life, which have been translated into English and French. And people like to quote him because he said some very short and wise sounding statements. And one of the things that he said, which people like to quote, is Zazen is good for nothing. You can't get anything from Zazen. Of course, this quotation is passed around in books and the internet, but people don't know who he was speaking to or what the situation was. But anyway, they like to quote, Zazen is good for nothing. And it's become a little bit of a kind of, oh, Zazen is good for nothing. Like, we're proud of Zazen is good for nothing in Zen, because Zen already has an image of being a practice that doesn't value the intellect so much. Zazen's good for nothing. You can't get anything. So that made me realise that many people misunderstand what he said, because he didn't say it in English or French or Czech. He said it in Japanese. And the languages are very different. And he said it to an audience of Japanese people. And at that time in Japan, people were struggling between the First War and the Second War. And they were looking for something. And especially in religion, they were looking to get some result. And unfortunately, the teachings in Buddhism in Japan became much weaker in the middle of the 1800s, about 1850, 1860. And from then they got even weaker because the Zen teachers in Japan, who were teaching in early 1800s, understood what the teachings meant. But after Japan opened up to Western countries, Japan became very keen to accept Western ideas. And when they saw beautiful churches in Europe, and they heard about Christianity and heaven, they wanted same thing. And this affected Buddhism a lot. In fact, towards the end of the 1800s, the government tried to destroy a lot of Buddhist temples, and they wanted the Buddhist teachings to be nice and ordered, so that they kind of, when Western people saw Buddhism, they could understand very logically and clearly. So they tried to rationalize the teachings. And in that rationalization, it became very common for people to believe that practicing Zazen, Buddhist way of practice, was a path towards a special, beautiful, peaceful state called enlightenment. So most people in Japan at that time thought that priests living in temples and people studying Buddhism were trying to get something. So Kodo Sawaki, who is quite very straightforward, direct teacher, said very loudly to his audiences, "You can't get anything from Zazen. It's not good for anything." So he was trying to tell them that their understanding, general understanding, wasn't correct. But I would like to say that if we practice, I can only talk about Zazen because I never practiced anything other than Zazen. I don't mind if it's got a different name, but if we practice the practice which is called Zazen, then of course we get result. Everything has a result. And if we practice regularly for some years, we can get some result, some effect. And I'd like to talk about 4 different effects we can get if we practice Zazen regularly, for instance, every day or every couple of days, for some time, like 10 years or 20 years. And I wrote them down. The first thing is we can get the ability to evaluate what is valuable and realistic from the huge amount of teachings we can find everywhere in the West now. On the internet, in books, from teachers, YouTube, blah, 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 blah. It's everywhere. And the most important thing is, how can we judge those teachings? Of course, we can say, I don't need to judge any of them. That's fine. But if we want to evaluate or judge which of the teachings which teachings are realistic or valuable, then practicing Zazen gives us the ability to do this, because we are comparing the teachings that we read about or hear or listen to with our own real experience. So it gives us a basis to make an evaluation or a judge. I don't mean that we have to be, this is right, this is wrong. Not that kind of judgment, but yeah, that sounds reasonable. That sounds helpful. That sounds true. Or, that sounds a bit weird. And if you don't do this, then you can spend your whole life looking at all these huge amount of teachings, which in itself may be valuable if you want to do it. So the first effect of practicing Zazen regularly for some time is we have the ability to evaluate teachings. The second effect we can get is a healthy body. If we sit regularly in the simple posture of Zazen, it's a simple thing. In Japanese there's the phrase shikantaza, which means just sitting. So the practice of Zazen is very simple. It doesn't have many other aspects that other kinds of meditation may have. It's a simple postural sitting. But in that simple sitting, we can find a physical balance between all our body's systems. And that's the basis of our long-term health. And medical science is supporting that the way we treat our body and how we sit and how we walk does affect our health. The third effect is we gain the ability to be in the present moment. So we're not trapped by the past, and we're not pulled into the future. Of course, it's impossible to live without being trapped by the past and pulled into the future. That's to be human, to remember the past and to look forward, or to be frightened of the future. But if we practice Zazen regularly, it doesn't trap us. So we may spend one morning or even a whole day trapped in the past, but we can escape into the present. And the reason we can escape into the present is because that's what the practice of Zazen is. Constantly getting back to the present, to where we are sitting. And the fourth effect of practicing Zazen regularly for some time is that we start to lead a life that is not based on our ideas. It's not led, our life is not led by our ideas. Instead, it's led by acting in the real world. If we think about it, we can agree that what we do now, in fact, creates the future. Even if I pick up my coffee, I have one future. If I don't pick up my coffee, maybe a different future. And if I talk about picking up my coffee, maybe another future. Every act in every moment creates the future. We can understand it here, but actually it's real. And by practicing Zazen regularly over a long time, our life becomes based on what we're doing now. And that's called the Buddhist way. It's also called the middle way in traditional Buddhism. In the teachings that I studied, the 13th century teacher Dogen used the word balance again and again and again in his writings. And the middle way is the way of balance. We can say that balance is another word for being in the middle, between two extremes. So, to lead a life in the real world is to lead a balanced life. And to lead a balanced life, we practice sitting in balance. So, what do you think about some of the teachings you see in books and on the internet and YouTube and so on? When I listen to some of them, and I don't read very much, but when I hear about people who read some things, I can find some things which are exactly the same as the teachings of Zen. In words, exactly the same. And I can find other teachings which to me sound, I can't believe that. No, I can't believe that. So, how do we judge these teachings? Well, I can give you 4 ways to judge them. Always 4. One is, for me this is, are they logical? If the teachings are not logical, we can't understand them clearly. Of course, we can still believe in them. Even the teaching says God's come down in the night and rearrange the world how they want it. You can say, okay, but it's not logical, so it's difficult to believe it for logical people. So logic is a good way to evaluate anything. In medieval times, people didn't use logic to evaluate things. So they had beliefs like God is making us move with strings like a puppet. Or when you get a virus, it comes from the bubbles in the water. So when you have a bubble on the top of the water, it bursts and the virus comes out. Lots and lots of beliefs like this. And we don't believe them any longer, usually, because first of all, they're not logical, but secondly, they're not scientific. So the second criterion I would recommend is, do the teachings agree with science? I don't mean they have to be the same as science, but do they support science? Because if they don't support science, it may be the teachings know something that science didn't find out yet. That's a possibility. On the other hand, science is, of course, science goes this way and that way. There are some theories which are wrong, but overall, over some years, science has a very powerful method to make sure things are true or not by verifying them in the real world. Experiment. So we should rely on science. So we can say, do the teachings support what science has found? Doesn't have to be the same, but does it support what science has found? Is a good criterion. The third criterion we can say in evaluating is, do the teachings talk about the present moment? Because it's a very simple concept, it's a very simple thing. The present moment, people are slowly realizing that actually everything happens here. And many of the people who have realized this fact are sports people. Sport is a very powerful way to experience present moment. And there are many different practices where we have to concentrate on what we're doing. Yoga, even playing music. So all these kind of activities point to what we're doing now, concentrating on the present. So the third criterion for evaluating a teaching could be, does it talk about the present in any way? And the fourth criterion I would like to suggest is, are the teachings profound? Do you know the word profound?
Hluboki.
That means, do they include everything? Are they inclusive? Are they deep? Is there room for everything in those teachings? If a teaching, for example, says, if you must join our group and believe what we believe, and if you don't, then you're going to die. Everybody in the world is going to die. So we can say that teaching is not profound, it's not inclusive. So I can't believe in it. So 4 criteria. Is the teaching logical? Does the teaching support science? Does it talk about the present moment, what we're doing now? And is it profound? And it sounds a little bit analytical to have 4 categories and so on, but it's quite a useful general way to have in the back of your brain when you're reading or listening to other teachings. So I hope other people evaluate my teachings from these 4 criteria. And if I don't pass the criteria, you can leave. After lunch. So, tomorrow I want to talk about the healthy body and the physical aspects of Zazen. And then on Saturday, tomorrow's Friday. No, Saturday. Saturday.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, I want to talk about the present, being in the present moment. So, that's it. that's what I want to say this morning. So let's talk about it. I'm quite. Some of you know, up to maybe 5-6 years ago, I only studied with my teacher, and I only studied the teachings of Zen Master Dogen. But I studied them every day for 30 years, and so I know them very completely. But I knew nothing about other kinds of teachings. So I started learning 5 or 6 years ago what other people are saying. And when I look and see what other people are saying, I always have to kind of...
Challenging. It's challenging.
It's challenging, yeah. But it's for me, it's been like opening my eyes to hear, for instance, Eckhart Tolle, who I think you told me about years ago, and then Miriam told me about again, and then I listened to him. Oh, right, he's saying the same thing. But if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would not have been interested. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Because I didn't know. And there are many other teachers. In fact, these days there are many gurus. I'll give you my definition of a guru. A guru is a person, a human being, who wants to find an audience of people to listen to them, and then they find an audience of people who want to listen to them, and so the guru becomes very happy to find the people who want to listen to them, and the people become very happy to find a guru they can listen to. So there can be great happiness. So I don't criticize that happiness, but all the teachers that I've been associated with were not like that. My teacher used to say to me, if people want to listen, they can listen. If they want to go, they can go. Never stop somebody coming, never stop somebody going. And he also said an organisation is not so important. If you have an organisation, you will have lots of problems, which is true. Organisations are formed of human beings, and human beings bump against each other, and they're competitive, and they have hundreds of problems. So if you have an organisation, you can have lots of problems.
Yeah, especially in Czech, these organizations.
Oh yeah?
And this comes down to Buddhism in general in Czech.
Oh, okay.
A lot of little groups, which starts from maybe 10 people, then 15 people, and then it comes down to 3 people. So then we have a lot of organizations around Czech Republic, which comes down to like 5 people.
Oh, okay.
Each organization, and that's it.
Oh, that's not an organisation.
And we don't have anything big.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to comment on the teachings of a guru, but I noticed the characteristic is the relationship between the guru and the students, and how that creates happiness for both parties. And sometimes, and this is just a fact, that happiness means the people want to donate money. And sometimes there's a lot of money. And then the guru can become rather both rich and famous, which is a very big problem for anybody. To become rich and famous is not easy, I would guess. And I was watching a documentary about Bhagwan Rajneesh, Osho,
Rolls-Royce good.
the Rolls-Royce man. And if you read his teachings, they're wonderful. So what went wrong? You know? Because there were many very serious problems came out of his organization. But the people in the organization were in a group of happiness. And that kind of happiness is sometimes hypnotic. And then you think the guru is a god, and then or your father or your mother, and so on. So there are many people now who can become gurus because of the ease. It's very easy now to create a group, to receive money, to make an organization, to sell videos, books, teachings, blah, 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 blah. But it's very difficult for a teacher to teach freely in that kind of situation. If you're taking money from people for your teachings, you should say what they like to hear. If you have to pay for the building from that money, then you better say what they want to hear. Otherwise you don't get the money for the building. And then, whoa. So, very difficult life.
Can I ask, how did Nishijima Roshi, your teacher, because he seemed to be quite successful, having, I don't know how many people followed him, but how did he avoid getting into that trap, that situation? Because he wasn't that kind of guru for you guys, right?
Well, he wasn't a guru because he didn't make us happy. In fact, sometimes he upset us. I had big problems with him. He had big problems with me.
Not avoiding conflicts, basically. So guru tries to please everyone, and the free teacher does not avoid conflicts. So
Well, first of all, my teacher didn't want anything. Only one thing: he wanted to spread Zazen through the world. That's the only thing he wanted. He didn't want to get lots of students, but he never refused anybody. So it's a difference between an intentional creation and kind of more natural way. So, okay, some people came to listen to me, so I'm going to hire a room and give talks every week. Okay, so more people came. Blah blah blah. So my teacher's life was not intentionally created. Even the Zen center we had in Tokyo was a surprise to him. One of his first students, who was a Japanese businessman, quite wealthy businessman, said to him, "Oh, why don't you start a place where foreigners can come and stay? I give you the building, I pay the money." So he said, "Okay, we try." So that's what we did. I don't know whether it was successful or not, but lots of people came and went, came and went. Foreigners, I mean.
Mm.
So you can avoid it by not doing it.
Not planning anything.
Well, don't intend to create some big organisation. If it happens, then you have to look at the situation. So don't intend to do it. Don't try to do it. Don't want to become famous. If you become famous because people listen to you, that's okay. Don't try to become famous. Don't try to become rich. And so on. So it's up to the teacher. I try not to create any permanent group. I think it was you said some years ago, Dogen Sangha doesn't exist. when we come together, it exists, and then we go home, it disappears. So that's fine for me. So I don't, I've watched some teachers on the internet, on YouTube. I can't visit them, and I'm very interested just to see. What are they doing? What does it seem like they want? And how are they getting it? I don't want to do it, but it's very interesting to listen and see. And even in the Lotus Sutra, which is a very ancient sutra, it says the truth exists everywhere. So that means everywhere, not only in Buddhism, not only in Zen Buddhism or in some other kind of Tibetan Buddhism, everywhere means everywhere. But not everywhere is the truth. Not all teachings are teaching the same thing. So if your group is successful, that's great. If it's not successful, that's okay. Doesn't matter so much. Of course you might feel sad. But that's okay. That's my attitude.